What's up, friends? It is the Man in the Middle show with Kevin and Joe, and I am Kevin, and that is Joe. How are you, brother?
Doing excellent. Feeling good.
Me too, man. Today we're going to get into career change later in life. Let's say 45, could be 55, 65. And the reason this is relevant is that may not be your choice, right? We've seen so much career change late in life in the last really kind of since pandemic is when it really shifted and people were sitting at home thinking about I don't really want to go back there. um and so but then often we are forced uh into career change. It's just, things are not predictable like they used to be. That old deal of you stay with a company 20, 30 years and you get your your faux gold Seiko watch, and then you ride into the sunset. It just doesn't, they don't even give you that anymore. It's not even on the table for the most part. And so what's happening with men in particular at this age, the psychological factors, right? It's an identity crisis, as we've talked about so many times, and Hollis lays out so meaningfully in the middle passage. Who am I? And I've spent all of my working life solidifying my roles and identities in society and professionally. And if I'm forced out of that career, what do I do with that? We have a fear of incompetence. We talked a lot in the last episode about being the new person as often as possible. And, it's one thing to do that, Joe, when you're volunteering to try something new. I'm going to learn to dance. I'm going to go to a kickboxing class. I'm going to take up martial arts. It's not consequential to your safety, as far as like bills getting paid and, all that other stuff. You can get past it. But you got a lot more concerns than just, well, I look dumb here. We also have sunk cost fallacy, right? Oh, I've come this far. I've put all this work into it just to start something over at this age. Feels crazy. We also have provider pressure, right? We may have kids in college. We got the mortgage. We may be taking care of aging parents. We don't feel like there's any room to take a chance at something new. And of course, we have the biological, physical factors of the decline of testosterone, which affects drive and motivation, confidence, energy, mood, and all that stuff. So it's a really complex thing. It's definitely not something somebody could flippantly advise that somebody, go ahead, man, take a shot. You got nothing but time. Suddenly not in the equation anymore.
Yeah. The other thing is too is you don't want any degradation of lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're used to live in a certain way, being able to do certain amount of things in your life. Uh, and the majority of the time, that might be okay with you to live with a little bit less, to be spending your time full time working, doing a little bit something more enjoyable. But maybe your wife and kids don't want to,
Yeah.
they don't want to change what they have.
Right.
They're not all like, oh yeah, 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 I'm good with no
Go
Starbucks.
find yourself, Dad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you're searching within for yourself. I don't need I don't need the new Grand Theft Auto game. You know what? I'll pay for it myself, Dad. Said no teenager ever. So like it's unless they're like a really, really good kid, then it's like, yeah, whatever, Dad, it's cool. I got my guitar here. I'm good, like
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, that there is a lot of pressure there. And the crazy thing is that about like over half of men in midlife say they want to change careers.
Mm,
Like they're ready to change something, they're ready to do something different.
yeah. Yeah. And it feels like you just said, it's not your choice. It's not only your choice. And so you better be sure. And if, like you said, we don't want to one would be stupid about it. It's like, okay, I'm going to give up my career in leadership and um, money earning, and I just really want to work at the nursery at Home Depot. Every time I go in there, it's pleasant, it smells nice. I'm just gonna I want to work there. I'm sure I could work my way up and maybe become manager someday. It'd be great.
Yep.
You just whatever it is. And so what do we do? Do we maybe it's the moment that you start to feel that way is when you need to start whacking some brush and looking for new paths alongside of what you've been doing. If you're fortunate enough to not be forced into the situation, right? Like maybe don't
Yeah.
stuff away that yearning to do something different and start experimenting.
Yeah, my experience was given to me. I was starting to set up to make changes for that. And then it was like, actually, you're going to do it now.
Yeah, that happens
You
a
know?
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I was lucky too. I had two parents that actually set really good examples for me of making some worthy pursuits in midlife. Both my parents got their degrees in their 40s,
Hmm.
late 30s, early
Interesting.
40s. My dad did it so that he could get a regular job during the day to be able to get health insurance and make sure we had stability for the bills so that he could continue playing music.
Hmm.
So that was his whole deal of why he went back and finished his college education to be able to get a decent job.
I'm curious, did he pick up where he left off earlier in life with the same degree, or was it a totally new field?
Yeah, he just did a basic business degree.
Okay.
And then my mom, she did the same thing. Like her biggest regret of her whole life was dropping out of college.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm blessed. I have a really, really great mom. Like all she ever wanted to be when she grew up was a mom.
Yeah.
Like that's what she always wanted to do. But one of her biggest regrets was not finishing her education
Hmm.
because that's very important to her. And it's not like the whole so I can get a job type thing. It's more so because she values education and learning um, and wanted that experience. So again, growing up, we did take on a lot of that regret, right? Like like Carl Jung says, the the what was it? The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived
Uh,
life of
uh,
the parents.
yeah, unlived life of the parents.
And so it's like that's why that was planted in me that, a college degree was so important is because it was my mother's biggest regret. And she definitely pushed that on us to not make that same mistake. But it was really cool seeing her go back, really be with it. She got, wonderful grades. She was in honors classes. She got to do a summer semester at Cambridge University in England,
Wow.
like really got to go and live that stuff. And we were a little bit older, so that was a great example. And it's really been an amazing value add to her life, an example for us, right? So then when it was time, like I said, when mine was forced, I was with a company for 10 years and I was in part of a massive layoff in 2020 that was actually like 3 to 4 weeks before the pandemic. And it was
Mm,
in the restaurant industry, which is interesting, right? Because it's like those layoffs would have been very different if it was a month or two later
yeah.
when everyone was laying people off. So, I got a good severance and stuff like that. But I mean, they clipped a couple of presidents. There was people that had been there 20 and 30 years. They
Wow.
let them go and it was very sudden. And it was
Mm,
it was a very interesting experience for sure. Memorable one. Very sad. But I was okay because I had begun pursuing other things and wanting to branch out anyway. So my mentor, when I called him when I was leaving the office, he's so funny. He just goes, "Oh, I thought you were calling me because you had a problem." And I was
wow.
like, "What?" He goes, yeah, you were already planning on this. God just sped up the timeline for you. Like, didn't you and Allie already talk about like you were going to do this next year? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, here it is. Doesn't sound like a problem to me. It sounds like you got what you wanted.
Wow, that's great.
Flip total reframe.
Yeah,
Just like you don't need to be stuck in this thing of something that you said you didn't want in the first place. I
yeah,
loved working there. I loved it. And I don't have any resentment or sadness towards that. I was able to become who I am today as a result of the growth and development and
yeah,
achievements that I built there. But again, my midlife career change was definitely sped up, like you said, that forced thing.
yeah, yeah. And that I've seen that. I'm sure you have too many times. It is like God, the universe, those forces are going, you think a lot about this, let's do it. And you're like, but wait, no, I gotta, my brain's still like, wait a minute. And then you go and you do it. And you, as coaches, Joe, we see this so often. Somebody will call us panicked over losing a client or something. And, you know, within 2 weeks, they're in this other situation that they would have never dreamed of. So that's sort of the go on faith part of it. But I think we know, Joe, like you have to be putting action towards the thing you may want next. Or even if you're not thinking of it quite as a career change, are you leaning into your passion? You know, the biggest thing for me going, you know, in the last year of my life, I just kept focusing on sort of the rule with the middle passage, and what Hollis teaches so often is you just have to give into it, this transition, this second adulthood, knowing there is absolutely no way to predict what it will be. And can you let go and can you allow? Because otherwise, you're going to live with this nagging restlessness all the time. And it is just the most counterintuitive thing. But man, when you do that, you start to see signs of what it could be. For instance, this show for me was, oh, wow. Especially after we released it and we started to hear from people and have these unbelievable conversations, as a result of our conversations here, it was just like, oh, this feels, I mean, I could spend the rest of my life having these conversations and feel very fulfilled. And so who knows where that leads? You know, where in a, what was the stat you sent me? 1 billion people a day watch podcasts on YouTube or something
Yeah, it was
outrageous.
something crazy like that.
And so that's not this, but that's the other thing is you're not an innocent dreamer either. You know, if we were in our 20s and we were doing a show on skateboarding or something, we'd be like, bro, we're going to kill it, man. Kind of naive. And that's beautiful too, because sometimes that works out. You got to start with that enthusiasm. But as you get into midlife, all that enthusiasm is being instructed by hard life lessons. And no, because, you know, and that's actually harder because then you got to, and so it's, you know, you're not, you don't have that naivete about it. But I would see those moments where I go, this is what it means. You will know when it appears, and then you will get clues to follow it down. But if you're stuck feeling dread over change or fear of loss of what you have now, there's, I believe, no way for those moments to occur. You're blocking them.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that you pointed out when you first started sharing was like really what James Hollis really, hammers home in the middle passage, which again is the really the crux of why we're even having these
Yeah.
talks, right? And he says the task of midlife is not to look outside for answers, but to look within and ask, what wants to come to life in me now? Right. And so, what that does in terms of career changes is it totally reframes it like not as like some big crisis, but as a calling,
Yeah.
right? Like a calling to not just like switch jobs, but like you're asking yourself to listen inwardly and you're saying, what is it within me that's trying to be born?
Yeah.
What is it that's there? that needs to come out, because the suppression of that is what causes all of that anxiety and all of that discontentment, right? And so, like for me, I know the biggest thing is like, okay, well, man, you're already so busy, Joe. Kevin, you're already so busy. Why the hell are you guys starting a podcast? You
Yeah.
know, it's not like we're sitting here for a bunch of spare time twiddling our thumbs, bored, and like, let's just do this. It's no, it's a calling. It's, hey, we feel compelled to do this, and this is something that we want to do. And it made me think back when I was sharing earlier about being laid off. And in 2018, when I was doing the ontological coaching training, I was one of the youngest people there. You know, I was at that time, I was 35 or 36. And most of it was people in their 50s that were accountants, finance, or, you know, people like that. Of course, there was HR people there. A lot of people there looking for meaning in their life
Mm.
because they had 20, 30 years in this career where they're just freaking working at Deloitte or some shit, you know, some big, you know, accounting firm. And they're just like, what is this? Is this all there is?
Yeah.
And so they were and what a wonderful place to be that they went there, because that was a deeply meaningful experience. The whole purpose of all of that training was to you know, begin to ask yourself quality questions and search within your mind, body, and your soul for what is it that I want to bring to life, you know? And so I know when I transitioned into the small business space, this entrepreneur space that we're in out of corporate, you know, one of the things that I really began to focus on the most is like, what are the things that I'm just naturally gifted at, right? Like,
Mm.
what are the things that energetically for me is not like a large strain, and even often just totally fill me up, right?
Yeah.
So, and Carl Jung talks about it as far as like, hey, what did I do as a child that made the hours pass like minutes? And within that, that's the key to what we should pursue here on earth, right? And for me, every sports team I was on, I was always like a captain. I was always a leader. I was super comfortable being the loud, freaking gregarious guy and just, you know, being that guy, right?
Yeah.
And not faking it, just naturally like that.
Yeah.
So then, like you said, it lends itself naturally to being a leader or executive in business,
Yeah.
where everyone else is kind of looking around like, God, if I had to do all that all day, I'd want to punch myself in the face. And for
Yeah.
me, it's just like, yeah, let's freaking go, man.
Try and stop me.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like I didn't, and so, and one of the, I'll end with this and kick it over to you. One of the biggest things about that in this whole career change is that when we're in this space for 10 or 20 years in the same job, it's really hard for us to see what the transferable skills are to the marketplace,
Yes.
because you're siloed into
Yeah.
this whole way of being and culture in this one business. This is all you ever know, and you have to be very intentional and look at how this can apply to other businesses, other industries, right? That like, you know, you can do this, right? And so when I was able to do that, like I've been able to help a lot of guys review their resumes and have chats with them that were going through that because I was able to do that. Then I'm like, hey man, bro, you worked on this project that
Right.
saved the company $1 million. Like
Right.
that's project management skills, team communication, like I listed off all these
Yeah.
things for them and they're like, oh, I never thought about it like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, put that on your resume. Like, like,
Yeah. Right. We were there, so we dismissed significance of the things we were a part of. In one of my programs, we do a thing called the um, unique copywriter DNA matrix. And what it is 4 columns. It's, you know, professional experience, life experience, actual projects for copywriters, and things I love to do most. And I tell them, list everything you can think of, because the point of it is, I say, then we basically want to imagine this projected on a wall, all these different things you have experience in, and just stare at it and just look for connections and say, oh, I'm uniquely qualified to this. Okay, what market does that apply to? Oh, so now instead of being a newbie copywriter at the back of the line, you're front and center as someone who has unique experience in that niche. And when they do that and they start to realize it, it brings up, like you said, it's like, wow, I have done some stuff, but you have to embrace that. And Joe, I want to point out without, this is sort of private moment in your life, and maybe it'll come to light in later episodes, but you have a new opportunity as well. And we were talking about it, and it hadn't occurred to you that part of the reason you feel so ready for that opportunity is because this show that we're just doing out of passion had put you in a conversation about those topics. And again, it's, you're putting that energy in the world that should not be dismissed. And this is maybe like the woo part, but it's not woo, because you have to be taking the action towards that. And God and the universe and all that will feel that. And it is a boomerang effect. What you put out will come back to you in some form at some time. When I switched over from stand up, dude, I mean, I was unhireable, literally could not get a job parking cars at the hotel down the end of the street from where we live. They wouldn't hire me because they were afraid I was still a comic and I would run away first time somebody called to go on tour or something. And I'm trying to convince them, no, that's over. I'm done with that. Like, I was sure, but they wouldn't take the chance. So I'm doing these, shitty, jobs, shuttling flight crews to and from the airport, the crankiest people in the world, and I'm sitting there going, man, I used to lead rooms of people like you into like hysterics. And now you're sitting here and I'm just the douchebag driving this van, and you're going to tip me 50 cents of the dollar that your company gave you to give to me because you're cheating and getting away with life. I'm not worth $1 for coming to haul your ass from the airport and carry your bags. And it's just like, it is humiliating and degrading, and it really makes you say, who am I and what do I want from life? But point being, what I was doing, Joe, speaking of degrees, I was a high school dropout like yourself. I got my GED at 30 when we moved back to Florida. And then I started taking every college course on writing that was available. I took all the credits I could up to the point where they force you to choose a major and actually enroll in college. So, and all journalism classes, there was even one on copywriting that was way different from direct response. But I was putting energy towards that endeavor. And I learned 2 things during that from my professors. Number 1, I can write. Number 2, it's a shit job and it's changing fast. This is back in 2001, 2. And we know now what has happened to the journalistic, industry. And they saw that coming, and they're like, I remember one professor saying, I don't, you could do it, but I don't think you want to. Like, it's starting over. Even then, he's like, at your age, it's young, hungry kids right out of college, and they're getting internships and things. Like, do you want to be an intern at a newspaper? You want to start a family? And I'm just like, damn, all right, check that off. That's not happening. And then, but man, when somebody said to me, there's this thing called copywriting, and I think you'd be good at it. And I saw what it was, and I discovered this guy named John Carlton and Gary Halbert, and it just, the hair on my arm would stand up every time I'd learn more about it, because I thought, wow, this is life giving me a second chance to do something I'm uniquely qualified to be good at. And it kicked my ass in the business department in the first go with stand up. And so I now have a new mission to not screw up the money part. If there's money out there, I'm going to get mine. I'm not going to go, oh, well, yeah, you just want to get some laughs. No, that guy's dead. We're going in. But the through line here is that find a thing, even if every door that opens via your passion is going, ooh, don't want to go in there. Stick with the passion at its core, because something out there will emerge in some form.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing that you're saying there is, quite often that fear arises and we don't take action. Like in your case, or like, like what you were saying about me in terms of, hey, we're presented this opportunity and we don't open the door.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you have to go all in,
Yeah.
and so one of the things that I was that I'm very I pat myself on the back for, which goes against my nature, is being patient, having some prudence and temperance, and just taking my time and saying I don't have to be impulsive and just shift and that knee jerk reaction. And now we're going all the way in this
Yeah.
direction, right? It's like you can just open the door and you can look in and you can have a conversation about what that exploration looks like. And I
Yeah.
think you said the other day when we were talking, it's like, hey, this is we're in discovery right now,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, well, let's see what that is. And I think the beauty in that is that it's not something that you I had ever envisioned for myself.
Yeah. Right.
And so, and I have that experience already. So when I started my life over in '09, about 10 months later, I got hired with that restaurant that I was with for 10 years. And I had prior restaurant management experience and I'd been working in restaurants for a long time before that. But I had these big plans to go back to school, get my college degree, uh, become a PA, a physician's assistant, right? And so when I was about 2 months in, my managers called me like 3 or 4 hours before I was supposed to be at work and said, "Hey, can you come in an hour early?
Mm.
We want to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh, here we go. It just started. I'm already getting fired." You know what I mean? But then, I get there and they're like, "Hey, have you thought about being a manager here? We think you would be a great fit and, we want to start developing you and blah, blah, blah."
Mm.
And for the first time in my life, I remember I came home and I was like all excited to tell my mom. I was like, "Guess what, mom? They asked me to be a manager and I told them I'd think about it." That's a big deal for me because, dude, I'm freaking Mr. Impulsive and
Yeah.
somebody wants me and they like me. Well, I'm going to do everything I can now, regardless if what the consequences are down the road. Right.
Right. It's like chase that
So,
drug, that feeling
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I took a month. I thought about it. I prayed about it. And it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. So again, I already have that and I've done that with a number of things too. I did that with my relationship with my wife as well. We just didn't rush anything. We spent time together for 4 months before going on a real date. Things. So these things that have ended up becoming really wildly meaningful and important in my life, I went against really who I am and how I normally handle things. So it's really finding that balance, right? And the other thing that I'll mention too is that if I were to start over again right now, I'd probably get into something blue collar
Hmm.
because the likely I'd either go blue collar, I'd go straight up AI because
Hmm.
it's like there's either going to be right now all of those blue collar stuff is far, far away from
Yeah.
being automated and,
Yeah.
roboticized or whatever the word is, right?
Yeah.
And there's such a lack of um like solid, amazing contractors.
Yeah.
And having my restaurant for so many years, I mean, 3% of my annual budget was on repair and maintenance, and that was on a $4 million restaurant. Right. That's a lot of money, dude. That's a big monthly nut that I was spending on AC, electrician, plumbing, all this stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So that right there, men out there, do no matter what anyone tells you, that is a fantastic way to go.
Yeah.
Like amazing. If you are a super high integrity, and the other thing is too, is I'll say this, there is this huge shift happening right now of baby boomer businesses up for sale
Yeah.
that they want to get rid of, that
Yeah.
maybe you have a nest egg and you can invest in that and go do this thing
Yeah.
and run that business. You could easily be making more money than you are now taking that over, right? If you
Yeah.
have that set up.
Yeah. I have a friend, one of the best success stories I know in my personal life, started as an apprentice at an AC company, worked his way up, worked there for years, started his own business, grew it, and just sold it a couple of years ago. I don't know the number, but I know this guy's set for life. He's living his best life. He's my buddy I told you about who does the triathlons and the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and smart guy, but very self-made, very self-made, just stuck to it, kept doing it, did all the grind and the hard stuff of growing the business, and wisely saw the opportunity. The exact reason you're talking about, these investor groups are like, let's grab all these businesses who from guys who are a little burned out and just build a portfolio. And went really well from him. Took like a year, as it does, to sell a business and all that. But the thing I'm hearing come up here, Joe, is this sort of like this paradox of, because we also know types, and you're maybe like a little of both. I feel like you giving time for things, as you just said, is a discipline you had to learn. And we both know many types of men who are just pure type A, go do it. If they say they're going to do something, they learn everything about it. They wake up at 4 a.m. to go make it happen. You're kind of doing this with the triathlon stuff. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
all in. I'll leave nothing undone. I'll go through this journey. I'll deal with the pain just because I said I would, and it's going to feel great when it's over. But who knows what that does for your life? Maybe this is a lifelong endeavor that you'll find a culture in it and it'll be very meaningful and it'll keep you in great health forever. Or maybe you'll get to the end of it and go, that was cool, did that, what's next? Who knows? It doesn't matter. But what are these two? And I've always been Mr. Like, you guys go and I'm going to hang out on this rock and wait for a sign. Right. So I got some really cool info on this. There's these opposing forces, right? So if we're exploring passions, curiosity, joy, and wonder is the energy source. It sounds like what lights me up even a little. What did I love before the world told me what I should be?
Mm.
The benefits are unlocks suppressed part of self, builds momentum without pressure, feels playful, experimental, human, rebuilds internal trust. That's a big one. But you got to watch out because it can feel unproductive to the achievement driven ego, needs space and patience to blossom. Okay. The other side of it, forcing new habits and disciplines, control, urgency, often fear based, rigid, demanding, self punishing. Sounds like I should be doing this by now. If I just stick to the system, I'll finally fix myself. No excuses. Time to level up. It can create structure and short term results, builds confidence when you keep promises to yourself. But you got to watch out because it can reinforce shame cycles. I failed again. Ignores emotional readiness or root causes and might be driven by external comparison, not inner truth.
Damn.
So, how do we know? I remember many times in my life feeling a lot less than because I didn't have the habits and discipline of other people I saw excelling in my field. But I also was not inclined to force that, or when I did, it just didn't feel like me anymore.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one, man. Because it's funny you bring this up. I was literally just talking about this yesterday with two different people.
Mm,
And we were talking about like the number one way to separate yourself from everyone else pretty much on the planet is really just consistency.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like, and so this thing that I read this week was the wonderful thing about consistency is that when you practice it, you're not just practicing being consistent at the thing that you're being consistent at, you're practicing it being consistent.
Right.
And so every time that you do that, you are proving to yourself who you are because the most important person in the world is watching everything that you do, and that's
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all can sit here and say, well, that's just how I am. But then we have to look at ourselves and say, why is it okay for me to consistently let myself down?
Mm.
What is it about me that that's okay? Would I allow my wife to do this? Would I allow my employees to do this? Would I allow my friends to just not consistently show up when they tell me that they are? But we'll do that for ourselves. And again, I'm not perfect. I do this on a lot of stuff where it's just like I say I'm going to do this and then I do the opposite. And then I have to live with that and a little part of me goes away with it.
Yeah.
But I know for me, um the biggest problem that we face is these damn phones.
Mm-hmm.
Because at any moment I can open up social media and see the highlight reel of someone posting all their wins and fake ass wins, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here comparing my shitty ass life to that. And it's like, well, then why even try, anyways?
Yeah.
And it's like, so
And it happens in a split second,
it
right? Your
does.
brain.
And so I've had to be very clear with myself about what it is that I really want for my life. Not what my wife wants for me, not what my parents want for me, not what anyone else not what my kids want for me. What do I want out of life? And that's what that calling is. What is it that I'm asking myself in terms of what I want for my life? You know? And if I start doing that, my ability to show up and be disciplined is way higher. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that there's not circumstances that can throw us off our game a little bit. You know, you just went through it yourself, so you know. So, and I've gone through it as well. But the thing is that like I just know that sometimes the hardest things that I've had to do in terms of making these shifts or trying new things or is having the courage to have the conversation with my wife about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the things that I do, like we said earlier, don't just affect me.
Right.
So I can't just go off and do whatever I want. Like my Ironman coach told me that one of the number one reasons for divorce in midlife is because of triathlons.
Wow.
Because these dudes just go off and totally neglect all of their shit and they are
Yeah.
focused totally on this, you know?
Yeah.
And I could see it.
They don't get buy-in. Yeah.
No, you know, and they are in righteousness and I deserve this and I've done all these things and I showed up for 20 years. It's time
Right.
for me to have my own thing and all these other things. And you could be and you know what? All those things could be right, but how you handle it's very
Yeah.
different. You know, like
Yeah.
I had a very open conversation with my wife about this season. And it was we landed on, hey, let's start at half Ironmans, you know? We
Yeah.
have a newborn and a teenager, like there's going to be other priorities that need you.
Yeah.
But it was an open conversation,
Yeah.
man. It
Yeah.
wasn't just, you know,
It reminds me, Todd Herman?
I know who he is. I don't
Yeah.
know him personally though.
He's he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, I heard he's a great guy.
He's a what would I call it? Mental discipline coach. That's not at all what he would call it, but he was Kobe Bryant's like thought coach. You know what I mean? He works with elite players in the world. And he wrote a book called The Alter Ego Effect, which is fantastic. But I'm blessed to have him as a friend. And when I decided to take on the adventure of going back into stand up solely to open for my friend Billy at the Mahaffey Theater in front of 2,000 people, after I did it, I got scared because, like an idiot, I went on Facebook and told everybody, guess what I'm doing? And you should come on this journey with me. And then I'm like, oh my God, what if this sucks? And so I called Todd and he's like, I told him what I was doing. He goes, okay, yeah, what's the problem? I go, well, number one, I could tank, and there's people like flying in from all over the country now to come see me do this, and eating it would suck. He goes, okay, what else? I go, well, I'm also pretty busy, and I guess I'm a little concerned of how it might affect my family. He said, are they bought in? Did you talk to them about it? And it was the first time I realized I had. I'm like, yeah, I did actually. They're all for it. They're excited. I told them it's going to be like a part-time job. I'm going to be gone most nights doing sets in some shitty little club somewhere. And he goes, okay, so that's handled. He goes, and as far as if you eat it, he goes, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you say the next day.
Mm.
Because you told people you were going to do this scary thing and you went and did it. And all you have to do, that's what matters, is that you walk out on that stage. Everything from there is just part of the experience. And I was like, wow. I mean, dude, a 10-minute call. And he's like, take care, man. And like you said about your mentor, complete flip of the script in my mind. I was like, all right, he's right. None of that matters anymore. And so these superficial fears we have, which are completely understandable, can be thought of and framed a different way to put them aside so that you can move forward.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that thing that I went and did when I got laid off, that business,
Yeah.
it failed.
Mm,
It failed. We shut it down. Me and the partner dissolved the business and I was left with 70K in debt.
mm, mm, mm.
So, and it wasn't a matter of effort, wasn't a matter of belief, wasn't a matter of how much I wanted it. None of that mattered. You could do everything right and the outcome still will not be the way that you want it. And when you said that, what you were talking about in terms of focusing so much on the outcome, like that's what made me think of that. And it's like, so often I'm really, really good at focusing on the process. That's the difference. Like I love getting in there in the day to
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
and like doing that and
Yeah.
then leaving the outcomes up to God. I'm not saying that I don't have goals, but and that's one of the things that Kobe Bryant talked a lot about. Speaking of him, is he would say, people were like, well, what if you don't win? He said, I don't even think about winning.
Yeah.
He goes, that's not up to me. He goes, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it happens, but I don't live based off of what outcomes I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And that's what we do a lot,
Yeah. We do. Yeah.
and then
Shows us.
what that does is it's like, if I just have this, then I'll be okay.
Right.
If I just get here, if I just make this much money, if my relationship's just like this, if I just have this many kids, if I just have this house, if I just have the and then we just keep moving the line
Yeah.
and then we're never able to enjoy right here and right
Right.
now,
It's the truth.
And so I think the biggest thing is that it is very important for us to get moving in midlife and start looking within and asking these questions, especially around careers. And what I was thinking of about this episode is so I came from the restaurants and I got promoted into the corporate office, right? So I was working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It was the best thing in the world, okay? And I would be going in on Monday morning and I was the happiest dude in the world. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And like I would get on the elevator to go upstairs and there was multiple like large corporation businesses in this office building. So it wasn't just us, but like and it was literally like someone died. And then people would always ask me, because people, when they're uncomfortable, their common thing that they always say, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it going?"
Right.
And they don't really want to know.
No.
There's just like this subconscious tick. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked, man. I'm so excited for today, dude. I freaking love Mondays." And I was like, I'm ready to get back at it. And they're just like looking at me like I'm the dumbest dude in the world. Like, dude, I want to punch this dude, you
Yeah.
know?
He's been brainwashed.
And like and that's how they feel, man, because they're
Yeah.
walking into just total
Yeah. It's sad.
destruction in their own mind, and that's
Yeah,
the problem. How do we alleviate that?
man. Well, those two forces are always interacting, right? And they're not enemies, but it's the timing of it. In midlife, many men try to discipline their way out of discontent,
Mm,
but what they really need is to feel their way into a new way of being. So exploring passions comes first because it reawakens the soul. So you have to calm down and allow for that. That's a leap of faith. And then habits and discipline come after that in service of what actually matters. Otherwise, you're just polishing the chains. So the reframe is don't ask, how can I become more disciplined? Ask, what feels so meaningful that I want to show up for it every day, like you just said. That flips the script because real transformation isn't about force, it's about alignment.
boom. It's so true, man. So true.
So look for alignment.
And that's why I'm glad I discovered triathlon,
Yeah.
because that's what you just said is what's happening for me. I'm watching it, I'm reading about it, I'm listening about it, I'm excited about it, I'm talking about it, I'm doing it. We have a we have a joke in the house that everything is swim, bike, run, and it's just everything's that,
Yeah.
and so like everyone I think just needs to really find their triathlon. Like I have a good buddy that is a firefighter. So it's not like he's Mr. Killing it financially, like we know, right? But every second this dude has off, he's hunting
Mm.
pics of turkeys and deer and hogs and he's the happy dude. He's one of the happiest people I know. One of the happiest guys I know.
Yeah. He found his thing.
Making
Yeah.
making below six figures, making his 60, 70 grand a year, super focused on his church and, focused on his hunting, and he's loving life, spends time, with his nieces and nephews and stuff. And bro,
Yeah.
amazing dude, and it's like, find what your hunting is.
Yeah. What's like you said about everything being swim, bike, run. It's so that's how you know you've found a thing because you learn the culture of it, you learn the lingo of it, and it comes into your life. And the people closest to you are maybe busting your agates about it a little bit, but still enjoying, loving that you're having this passion. It's now this whole experience everybody's in together. And you won't do that if something's not aligned for you. You won't get that far, probably. You'll turn back before it gets to that. So just allow for that. I think that's the message here is if you're feeling discontent, if you're fearful that you could be forced into change, rather than go into emergency repair mode, say, what kind of opportunity am I being given here to just explore? Look at your bank accounts. Look at the bottom line. Look at the end game. Do you have 6 months? Do you have a year? Nobody wants to dip into their savings and their nest egg and those things. But guess what? If you're able to, maybe that's the blessing you need to have that financial padding. It wasn't part of the plan, but you're a lot better off than people who are living literally week to week and have no choice but to scramble and beg and maybe move in with family or all these horrible, degrading circumstances that really keep you down. So count your blessings, look for alignment, and take action. Don't ignore those voices. You don't have to force it, but you do have to explore it and let it take hold.
Yeah, and just some stats for you guys, just to throw it out there. So, and these are from Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, 33% of individuals 45 to 54 anticipate careers changing before retirement.
Wow.
Um, the desire for career change, when they surveyed individuals in 2022, 53% express a desire to change careers entirely,
Mm,
with 79% aiming to work in a new field.
wow. Wow.
So put that in context, boys and girls. Half desire a career change, over three quarters want to work in a new field. Okay.
Completely
Um,
different.
and then 45 to 54-year-olds, 21% of them felt their age was a barrier to change jobs, and 16% believed it was too late to make changes altogether.
At
Like
what
they just
age? In their
45 to 54.
oh, okay. Gotcha.
16% believed it was too late to make a transition like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, it that is kind of low, but that's still millions of men.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're saying is, guys, is be smart, but also look within yourself. I think the most important thing that was said today is what Kevin had to say, and that's just alignment. And when you're in alignment with your purpose, and your alignment with what God, God's will for you and your natural talents and feeling good, you have peace and serenity. And I think everyone listening, myself and Kevin included, know what it feels like to be out of alignment.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of discontent, a lot of irritability, frustration, sometimes even to the point of desperation. And you're like, if I don't make a change, shit's going to get wild. Okay.
Yeah.
So take a look at yourself. Ask yourself important questions and find out what your triathlon is, or what your hunting is, or fishing, or working out, or new job change, or whatever it is that's going to get you on the path back to alignment. And I think for practical reasons, the most important thing that you could potentially do is to open this conversation up with your wife,
Yeah.
and not to freak her out,
Yeah.
you know, but just to open the conversation. Because again, and then if you can't have, you can't even have those types of conversations with your wife, that's another thing that you need to deal with first, right? Because I've had lots of conversation with Kevin with guys that they're like, I don't even talk with my wife like that. I'm like, well, you need to fix that shit first before you can even
Yeah.
start going and doing anything, right?
That's a low ceiling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But dude, that's very prevalent, bro.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is. So, if you can get past the point of just, sharing, being a roommate and paying bills together, parenting together, and actually have a relationship, you can start talking about things like this, and hopefully they surprise you with some support.
Yeah. And like we said in the point of doing this show, take inventory of your
Mm.
friendships as well, in your relationships. Are the people in your life who will have this conversation with you and say, yeah, I've been through this myself, or I've been feeling this way, or they, oh, yeah, come on, man, what are you fucking, what do you just put a skirt on, man, just fucking go to work, and like you can't. And so there's a just being able to have the conversation and say it. Maybe it's someone you just meet once and they bring it up, and you're willing to. Now you have a new friend, maybe who it starts with having it on your mind, being introspective about it, and then at some point giving some voice to it in what feels like a safe place. Um, just to hear yourself talk about it and say it out loud too can be the starting point, especially if you're not supported by by your closest relationships. Then you really, really need to find somebody to talk to. This is what a good therapist can do. I think everybody should have a therapist. If that idea feels foreign to you, you may take a few to get somewhere, but it is a worthy endeavor to have somebody in your life who's there to listen to you and give you some feedback in a very safe environment. So yeah, don't settle, don't freak out, but don't sit still either. And as we like to say, shit's coming. Nothing personal. That's how the world works. And the more you're being introspective and taking inventory of yourself, the more prepared you'll be for it.
Yep. And we'll end with the wise words of James Hollis. We are not here to fit in, be well balanced, or provide exemplars for others. We are here to become ourselves. So midlife is where we need to start asking ourselves, what if I stop playing the role? So this is what opens us up to get into space for real risk, real meaning, and possibly real success. So thank you guys for listening. As always, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you as well. So leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. And most importantly, share this with someone who needs it, even if they don't want it. And we hope more than anything, we continue spreading the message of men talking about what's going on with them in midlife, especially something as wildly important as career changes in this time of our life. Don't forget that Kevin is an amazing writer and whips up a newsletter every week that we launch an episode paired with the episode. And if you like reading this type of topic just as much as I do, make sure you go to maninthemiddleshow.com and subscribe to our Substack. And that awesome newsletter from Kevin will land in your email box. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the other side.